Hello and welcome to the Gooner Ramble podcast. This is our last of our regular season podcasts, and still basking in the ineptitude that is Tottenham Hotspur. How they managed to snatch ridicule and ignominy from the hands of basically history. Here to join me to discuss that, review Sunday's game and all the events that surround it, are regulars Mark, Clive, and Akhil. Good evening, Mark. How are you, mate? You right?
Yeah, good, Giles. Thank you very much, mate.
Good man. Clive?
Yep, man. Ready to rock. Ready to rock.
Good stuff. And also, Akhil, how you doing, mate? You cool?
It happened again.
It certainly did. All right, so let's get your opening statements. I'm going to start with you, Akhil.
Yeah.
How, you were the feeling before the game. You probably was. I suppose you went out. You was out with your mates in the toilet or wherever it was. What was the feeling before the game? Were you confident that we'd do the job, or were you really sort of like petrified that Tottenham would actually finally, and first time in 20 years, get one over us?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't remember having any sort of conversation about the game beforehand. I think the first reference was when someone said, "Oh, Jack Wilshere's starting," and it was like, "Oh, okay, cool, that's good." Like, it was sort of I think we had all accepted that Spurs would finish above us. It was I didn't think in my wildest dreams that Spurs would mess up. I thought they would at least get a draw. I mean, I guess I was fairly confident Arsenal would win. I mean, it was a very, very poor Villa side, and they've had obviously a shocking season. But no, I didn't quite think Spurs would mess up in the way they did. Which I suppose made it even better. It's in a similar way. When you think something's going to happen, it doesn't happen. The disappointment is so big, but at the same time, if you think something's not going to happen, it does happen. It's even greater. So, yeah, it was just an amazing turn of events, really.
Clive, yourself, I mean, before the game, were you looking at it as sort of a dead rubber match for us, almost? Were you holding out much hope or belief that Tottenham would mess up?
I'll tell you, it's funny, a lot of Spurs friends I know were really quite worried about the game. And I was trying to calm them down. I was saying, don't worry, you'll get a draw. Don't worry about it, you'll get a draw. We're going to win. I thought Theo Walcott would play and get his normal last game of the season hat-trick. So I was quite surprised to see him not in the squad, and then found out he was later supposedly injured. But really, I was out with a lot of Spurs people, and I was trying to calm them down. They were incredibly nervous, incredibly anxious. I'm thinking, why are they so worried? Why they've had a good year? We're going to mess up. And I'll tell you what, they were right to be worried. I mean, I did not see that coming. And I seriously am asking myself, what happened? What happened to them, right? So for all the plaudits they've been given, I find myself thinking a lot about Spurs today. I'm really trying to work out, how they're gonna go from being the best team in the world about a month ago, carrying England through to European Championships. I'm looking at some of them players today, and since the Chelsea game, they're completely capitulated, right? And so I never thought Spurs had this in them. I know everyone said Spurs are going to mess it up, but I thought this time Pochettino had really sort of semi-fixed the mentality. But I tell you what, this could actually be worse than Lasagna Gate. It actually could be, right? So I really do think so. I think it's more damaging because the quality of player is different, and they were so confident. I mean, I'm in shock, but obviously incredibly pleased they've made my Monday.
Mark, coming over to you. I mean, I remember yesterday you were talking about the big Tottenham fella at your workplace who was walking around with his beanie for like a month, every day for a month, and then all of a sudden he kind of he sort of like made it disappear, and he seems to be nervous. I mean, for you, opening statements for you, what did you think? I remember in the pub yesterday, did we even discuss it that much? I can't even remember. I'm not.
Yeah, I killed too many brain cells yesterday to remember that, and I never had that many to start with. I'm going to put that down to the change of weather, the fella with his hat. But I saw him today, and I actually just kind of like burst out laughing. I wasn't going to say anything to him because the bloke is built like a brick shithouse, so I'm just going to let him sort of wallow in his own despair. No, I mean, I think it was at Chelsea. I think they lost it at Chelsea. Not. They just lost all their self-discipline on that night, It was fantastic to watch, and it made for a great game of football. But I think that was when they lost it, because they just didn't seem to be able to recover their composure from that moment on. You know, they obviously went into the Southampton game with the jitters and got caught out, and then I like same as Axe and Clive have said, I could not see them going to Newcastle and losing. I haven't seen it at all, but you know, to actually just to have fallen apart like that is just so fantastic. It's so brilliant. I mean, you know, how do you lose 5-1 to a team with 10 men who are already relegated? I mean, that's just, there is literally only one other club I know that could actually manage to do something like that, and we all know that is.
It takes a certain kind of characteristic, though, doesn't it, to sort of like, you know, mess up. I mean, as Clive has said, Axe, I mean, this is possibly more monumental than Lasagna Gate.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Lasagna Gate there was an explanation there. You know, it was 8 or 9 of their players were down and out sort of thing. Whereas here, there wasn't really an explanation. I mean, they went 2 down, but then they got 1 back, and then Newcastle even had a man sent off, and you just thought, you know, Spurs need 1 goal against 10-man Newcastle, who are relegated. I mean, I mean, before the game, Arsenal were 3-1, I think, to finish second, which is quite big odds. And then during the game, it changed a little bit as well. And I wasn't on my phone checking the odds during the game; it was someone behind me. but it was quite useful to know. And as soon as the chap got sent off, the odds suddenly then just you know, Spurs were obviously favourites to not only sort of win the game, but obviously be second as well. So it is. I mean, they're going to look at themselves and think, how did this happen? You know, they were. It was meant to be their best season ever. They were playing the best football ever. They were, you know, doing things that they've never done before. And,
yeah.
Well, exactly. And end of the day, they've against a very sort of average Arsenal. I wouldn't say an average Arsenal side, because individually it's quite a good side, but a very average season. It's you know, we've still finished above Spurs. It's amazing. So yeah, I would put this higher. I think it's because you can't explain it, and I think that's what makes it even sweeter for us. That, you know, it shows that their mentality is probably worse than ours. I mean, exactly. You know.
It's true. I mean, our last few games haven't been great, have they? I mean, we've kind of limped over the line ourselves, you know. Tottenham, I think, ever since Harry Kane put the 4 Lions up, or the 3 Lions up after the Stoke game, they've sort of capitulated. But we haven't really. Yeah. We ourselves have been pretty poor. I think
we have. I mean, our performances have, but we have got 10 points out of 12 in the same 4 games. They've got 2. So before the Chelsea game, they drew to West Brom at home. So it kind of started from there as well. So 2 points out of 12, you know, that's, you know, we've gained 8 points on them in sort of 4 games. It's incredible.
Indeed. Going on to the game then. You know, we had a few early chances. The atmosphere in the ground was brilliant, wasn't it, really? And no doubt helped by the Aston Villa fans, who I thought were, I mean, I know we hate them, but bloody hell, they really know how to party. You know, they were having a right laugh, and the atmosphere, the you know, the energy within in the stands, for me was great. You know, and then we scored the first of the Giroud goals, and things looked good. But we never really, I don't know, it was kind of odd. You know, after we scored the goal, we were very pedestrian, as we've become accustomed to being. You know, and I felt Aston Villa were quite comfortable defending us, and even, you know, caused us a few problems. I think is it Jordan Ayew? Had a couple of chances. He had a 1-on-1. He turned, I think he stood up Gabriel and turned him, and, you know, flashed a pass across the goal. And there was a couple of opportunities half opportunities at Aston Villa. But we struggled, didn't we, Mark? We didn't look very fluid.
I don't know about struggling and them having that many chances. I mean, yeah, they had a couple of half chances. Yeah, Gabriel's defending for that one was fairly abysmal, you know. And but I don't know. It always looked to me. It was a bit like so many other games this season. You just sort of thought, well, we'll just keep plodding along, and then we'll nick a goal, and then it's just whether or not we're going to do the stupid thing of conceding an equaliser or whether we'll actually hang on for 1-0 or maybe nick another one. I didn't ever think that it was in doubt, because I just thought their team was so shockingly poor. It was summed up by so much of their defending for the 4 goals. Even when you look at the first goal, how the fuck has Giroud just basically got a free header? Brilliant cross in from Monreal, but he's just got no one anywhere near him. So it was exactly the same, and that's one of the reasons why I think a lot of people are fed up. It was just the same boring kind of game that we're watching. And it's just
the reason why I said we struggled is that we didn't pick up. We should have gone on in that first half to score a few, but we never looked like, I don't know. We just didn't look like we would. We didn't look likely to score another couple in that first half. Obviously things changed in the second half. But coming to you, Clive, what did you think? What did you put our first half before? Most of that period between the first goal and the second half. What do you put that What do you put that performance down to? Was it the jitters? Were they worried about what was going on? Was it sort of, do we stick or do we twist?
Yeah, I think it's. I look at it, and I always look at Arsenal. I think we're a team that when we're bright, we flow really easy. We look really easy on the eye, and we can all feel it. When it looks good, it just feels sharper, looks quicker, looks instantly creative, and it just looks so simple, right? So it's for example, the second goal was a beautiful example of that, right? And then once that goal's gone in, then of course we just flow from there on in. We make football look really, really easy. But I often say that for Arsenal to flow, everything's got to be perfect. And when things are not perfect, we get frustrated as a group of fans, and we expect perfection all the time. And I do think the way our playing style is all about flow, creativity, timing, precision. And if that's off, I often wonder, what do we do? Can we win the moments, right? Can we be a little bit more functional? Can we dog out? Can we dig it? And are we happy as a set of fans when we do that? And, listen to most of us, really, when we talk to our mates and amongst ourselves, we want it to be perfect all the time. And if it's not perfect, we say, well, that's crap, it's boring. Well, actually, no team flows perfectly all the time. We just got to accept it, right? So I thought we scored early. That settled everything down. And it's just about waiting for the second goal. I thought they were rubbish, right? We knew we were going to win the game. So just play the game and just see what happens, right? So and then events off the pitch sort of took over and pushed us on to a much bigger result. So I'm not overly concerned about the 38th game against the bottom team with one of the worst Premiership records ever. I just think maybe the only thing you can spot is, what do we do when we don't flow, right? Can we find another way to really push teams back and maybe adapt our playing style slightly? But apart from that, it's just a steady game, well won, right? No issues at all.
Cool.
Just to add to that, I actually thought the story of the game was interesting, because I thought the first 10 minutes we actually started okay, and I think Wilshere made a bit of a difference. He's somebody who sort of wants to drive at the ball and gives you something a little bit different. Despite playing out on the right, he was he was central for the first 10 minutes quite a bit. And then I thought we got the early goal. It was kind of not much really happened. But then when I think the crowd cheered for the Newcastle first, and especially the Newcastle second goal, I felt that our players then suddenly, the mentality issue, which we've been talking about all season, kind of got in their heads a little bit, where they thought, oh wow, actually we can finish above Spurs. And I think the players do know fans are frustrated. I think the players do know that together, collectively, coaching, manager, players, they have let us fans down. So I think that suddenly got in their head that, well, we know that it means a lot to fans to finish above Spurs. We really have to do it for them. So it got in their heads a little bit. And then it was only when it probably got to 3-1 where I think then suddenly again we got that goal, but that sort of second Giroud goal wasn't. There was a little bit of good sort of play on the left hand side, but we kind of got in quite easily, and it was a good finish from Giroud, of course, but it was an instinctive finish. It wasn't one of those he had too much time, because if he did have time, I think the mentality issue would have hit him again. But I thought that was kind of the story of the game. I thought they got nervous because Newcastle were 2-0 up. It was just.
I agree. I agree. I do feel like the feeling where I was was the crowd were getting a bit anxious. No one seemed content or reassured at 1-0 that we'd see the game through.
I mean, maybe we were nervous too.
Yeah. And then the focus was everyone was on their phones or texting or whatever, and what's the score up at Newcastle and blah blah blah. And as you say, for me, it's only once it turned to 3-1 because then I saw Monreal get a message from the touchline. Then he was conveying messages.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah. And then the mood seemed to change on the pitch as well as in the ground. And I think you're right. I think that was the story of the game. I don't think it was a routine. We got an early goal and it was a bit, and then we kind of saw it out. It didn't feel like that at all to me. It felt like the events that were surrounding, the game and the stands and from the other game certainly sort of helped the result or the outcome for me, because we did seem to play with a lot more freedom once we heard it was 3-1. Didn't you think?
Yeah, I mean, once the pressure was off, we kind of started to play, and then that kind of, I mean, this is probably a question for you guys, and sorry, Charles, to kind of butt in there as well. But I mean, Arsene Wenger talked about Arteta and Rosicky kind of, as leaders. It's okay, they haven't played much in the last year, but leaders off the pitch. And let's be honest, we've been kind of lacking leaders. We all think we've got a bit of a mentality issue. It sort of struck me today where I thought, bloody hell, that's actually really worrying that we don't have leaders as it is. Yeah, two of them. Yeah, and I'm not saying sign them up or anything. I do. It's time for them both to leave. But suddenly you think, well, actually, the couple of leaders we did have, at least off the field, at least pre-game, half-time, end of the games, they'll be gone. And I think our summer plans, our summer transfers is just is obviously getting the right players with the quality in, but the leadership thing is even more of an issue now, I think, than it was 12 months ago, which is bizarre to say because it was a massive issue then. I'm not sure what you guys think about it. Maybe I'm just being a bit dramatic, actually.
No, I think you're right, because Wenger's always said in the season that he's got leaders throughout the team. They're all leaders, but like you say, those are two who, Arteta, Rosicky, even Flamini, even though he doesn't really do much positionally on the field, he does galvanise, he does shout, he does gesticulate. I don't know what you guys think. What do you think, Mark? Clive?
Mark's got looking on mute.
Mark's thinking about the leaders there.
No, you missed what I said. I said, actually, what about? Sorry, you lost me there. What was the question there?
Right.
Akhil's just said that we're losing leaders.
Losing leaders?
Yeah.
I thought you had to have them in the first place to lose them. But yeah,
you have to hear what I said in context.
Experienced players, yeah, definitely. Leaders, yeah. I mean, Arteta, yeah, okay, I'll take that he was possibly a leader. Flamini, shouted and pointed a lot, which can sometimes work with some personalities. Rosicky, no, I just think Rosicky led by experience sometimes. But yeah, I mean, that's a lot of experience to go. But we've got to remember that they were three players who hardly played at all. So actually, what are we losing? They didn't play that much.
Akhil, do you mean influence within?
Yeah. I think. I'm not sure if the first point what I meant in terms of as I said yesterday, Arsene Wenger said that those two were quite key kind of off the field. And as I said, I'm not suggesting we sign them up. Not the complete opposite. But what I'm saying is that it was even more alarming that we already lack leaders, yet now if you're saying we're losing two more. I mean, you know what? A good example earlier in the season when things were going wrong. I'm not sure this meeting made much of a difference, but there was four players that kind of got the group together and they tried to have a bit of clear the air sort of meeting. Petr Cech, Per Mertesacker, Thomas Rosicky and Mikel Arteta. So they were the four that were seen as the sort of the leaders, that when things go wrong, those four will be the ones you look at. You've suddenly lost two. One's probably not going to play much. I think he'll be pushed down to fourth choice. And if I got my way, Arsenal would be buying centre-back this summer. Suddenly you've only got Petr Cech, who's then a goalkeeper. So what I'm trying to say is that in the summer, as well as looking at the quality of the players, we need leadership qualities as well to come in. We need players. Now it's even more complex. That we need good players who will fit into the system, fit into to the way we play, fit into the personality stuff. But also we need leaders.
Yeah, I sort of agree with you up to a point, but I also agree that when you sit there and you have certain leaders leave the dressing room, the natural pecking order in the dressing room is that other players are waiting to take
yeah.
Right, and that's how dressing rooms go. If there's a strong character goes out the window, there are others just learning, watching, seeing how they operate, and wanting to take on all their best attributes and then add to it. Right, so and I want to see, if I'm honest with you, right, we have got the most deferent World Cup winner in the history of mankind wearing a number 11 shirt for us. It'd be great for him to really step up and be one of our leaders and not be so deferent to others. Right, and I want to see that happen. And who else may pop out? We talk about Jack, and we all know what he feels about the club. He may suddenly develop from a injury-prone midget into a leader, right? So I'd be interested to see how the next layer comes in and who really puts their hand up. Right? And we should be encouraged by that.
Yeah. I think you could add Coquelin to that mix, and also Ramsey, because he's been. He's quite important in the world setup. He's been in the dressing room for quite a number of years as well. So maybe those guys.
Do they get into the team though?
But we're talking about influences around. We're also talking about influences around.
Yeah. But I mean, on the field too. Obviously, you can have as many leaders off the field, which is good, but you do need a few on the field because that's where ultimately.
Why there wouldn't be. You think a fit Jack will be in there, wouldn't you? Wenger likes Ramsey.
Yeah.
Coquelin as well. So, and they're all 24, 25.
I think it's been interesting that Coquelin's not been playing actually in the last sort of month. I thought I don't know if that's an indication or if it's fitness.
You know what? I think we've got to stop this in our heads, right? We played 60 odd games a season, and we're in our minds. We always pick that first 11, and when that first 11 changes, we question and Coquelin's not playing, maybe he's going to go. Or I just think, well, you know what? He took 3 games out. So what? Come back in yesterday, looked good. Looked really good, right? He looked sharp. I thought his attitude for the under-21s in that game was tremendous. When a first-team pro on 40 grand a week gets dropped down to an under-21 game, if you'd have watched that game, saw how he played, it was absolutely brilliant when you compare it to, say, Campbell, who sulked his way through most of that game, right? So I thought, I'm looking at him, I'm thinking, leader, there you go, ready to go, 25, be at the club for like 8-9 years. He could really blossom in the next year or so. So I'm really encouraged by the fact that that older layer is going. I read what Arteta said today and read some of his statements. You can't help but be impressed with the man, right? So you just can't. When he's talking about standards, he says, my standards were like 8 out of 10, and when you play for Arsenal, you got to be 10 out of 10. When was the last time you heard an Arsenal player say something
very
like
refreshing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, mate, and we're
it's
talking
quite honest as well. It's very honest about himself, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That sort of stuff. Wait, we can't let him walk out the club. If we do, we are absolutely crazy, because that's the sort of person. We grew up in the Rocastle era, right, and the Tony Adams era. That's the sort of thing we hear from those individuals. Yeah. Not from a Spanish guy who's been here 5 years. I think it's brilliant. We got to hold on to that type of thing. And I think, maybe to touch on Ak's point, we've got a number of players just, coming to the end of their careers. We had recent players like Henry and Lundberg. We got Rosicky, we got Arteta. Come on, this time we can't let these people, Arsenal people, just walk away and have no input into the club on a regular basis. That's what I want to see, a much greater depth of Arsenal people around the management, around the coaching staff and around the players, because then we don't lose nothing, Ax. You know what I mean?
I agree. I totally with you.
But we've got to get them around the club. We can't let them walk away and rely on, on Steve Bold and Bora Primovic, right? That's not enough.
And getting Mark, what do you think? Do you think Arsenal will be? I mean, we know nobody knows how good a coach he is or might well be, but do you think we'll be stupid to allow someone like Arteta to go to somewhere like Man City, who you would think would only become even a better coach under the tutelage of Pep Guardiola?
Who knows, mate? I mean, it's like we've seen other great players, far better players than Arteta, who couldn't manage for shit. So, or coach for shit even. So, and nobody can tell. I mean, the fact that we're letting him go, I don't know. I agree with Clive. I find it bizarre that the guy has been regardless of his contribution as a player over this season and last. Before that, he was fairly vital at a time when we needed someone to kind of hold that midfield together. And he is obviously very respected by the players, and he seems like a very, very decent man, and his comments today showed that. So, you do think, why are you actually letting him walk away? If he wants to be a coach, why aren't we making him a coach at Arsenal? And I mean, we discussed that yesterday, and it's the whole thing about Wenger, possibly Wenger commenting that he can't get rid of someone who's already a coach at the club to get Arteta in. Well, I mean, Thierry Henry is going to be working with the under-18s next season, so something's obviously gone on there. Steve Gattin, how great a job is he doing with the under-21s when he took them down, and he's only got them up with the help of senior pros in the game, again, as Clive said. So I don't know, why are we letting him go? Why is he going to sit? I mean, I know he's probably good, got a good relationship with Guardiola already now, but you have to sort of think, well, if he's that great, why let him go?
I think he came out yesterday after the game and said he has got an offer from Arsenal. Yeah. He said he's got three offers. I think he's got three. I think the other one is Spurs, actually, because he obviously knows Pochettino well. So I think he did say that the door is open at Arsenal and he needs to make a decision soon. But he didn't confirm who the other two were.
Yeah, but then if he doesn't stay at Arsenal, you've got to wonder what that offer was.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, Arsenal now need to go and show it and make him stay, sort of thing, persuade him to stay. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I would hope they persuade him to stay. I mean, the Arsenal academy situation with Jonker going and with Frank de Cat going, the Dutch guys are going. So there is space in that hierarchy in that academy system, and I would like to see the first team coaching group bigger. I don't think it's big enough. Right? No disrespect, but who would you rather have? I mean, I don't know. Okay, you should just judge on personality, you should judge on coaching ability, but surely that Arteta can learn from Bamfield and Bold and Wenger and just add to our sort of infrastructure on the people side. And I think we've got to start doing that. The club's massive now, right? You need more than just one or two people. We've got to start thinking bigger and having a much bigger bench.
Well, some of those coaches are certainly big.
There's a couple of coaches at Arsenal, right? There's a guy called Carl Larriman and Steve Gattin, and I'm looking at these individuals. They're just not inspiring me at all. Not inspiring me at all. I do go watch the youngsters sometimes, and I want to see more from that group. I want to see the club is doing a lot on the infrastructure side and the coaching on the Colney. They're making some great strides there. I want to see that step up, right? And so we're interested to see what we do, because there's a gap now. The experiment with the Dutch guys has failed because he just admitted it. And so now what they do now is going to be really interesting to see how they add people to that group.
There's a very odd parting of ways, the whole Yonkers and then Cat thing and whatnot. I don't know if it's are they diametrically opposed in philosophy or whatever. I don't know if that'll ever come out. Another player that's leaving, Rosicky. As you said, it was quite a touching moment yesterday. I think it was the second goal when the players went and greeted him and acknowledges him. So he's obviously a very valued member of the group. Let's move on to another. Let's segue on to the transfer situation. With these guys going, a lot of people that are supposedly have ears within the club are saying that there's going to be lots of comings and goings this summer. I don't really know. I don't know anyone in the club, but I'm kind of skeptical about that. I don't 100% believe that there's going to be lots of comings. There may well be lots of goings, but I'm not sure there'll be lots of comings, because Wenger just isn't like that. He's just not like that. And he did say, I think on Sunday, something like he'll bring in free players, whether he's playing his poker face or he's actually he's genuine about what he said. I don't know, but history tells you that, I don't expect to see so many big players or a number of first team players coming in. I don't know what you think, Mark.
Well, historically, he's always said that he feels that adding too many new players to a squad can be difficult to integrate them all at the same time. So, he's already said that in the past. However, I mean, he is losing 3 experienced players, although I'd counter that with the fact that you could count the number of games they played on one hand between the 3 of them. So that's more about personalities and experience and possibly some sort of leadership skills off the pitch more than on. So who knows? If you look at who we've got youth, I would like to think that whilst I love the impact Iwobi's had, you can see that he ran out of legs and a little bit towards the end of the season. So I think he'd be a squad player, because certainly the first team would need better players than Iwobi if we want to win the league next season. Playing week in, week out, and Terrell maybe comes in as a squad player, possibly to get a chance here and there. And it's a question of wait and see. But again, the other problem we've got is he doesn't generally buy that many players anyway. So where's he going to get them from? We're already getting the messages about the quality's not out there. So it's none of us know, mate. None of us know what's going to happen. I guess we'll know on the 1st of September or whenever it is.
Axe.
Yes, it's difficult. It's difficult to say, because I mean, the last 2 summers you've had 2 quite extreme summers. So we had last year with only Petr Cech arriving, but the summer before we obviously had a few. We had Debussy, Ospina, Chambers, Welbeck, and Sanchez arriving, and that's where you thought, oh, actually we've had an all right summer. I think we will probably all agree we were still 1 short that summer, but then we had last year, which was, as I said, totally different. So I've got no idea what Arsene Wenger will do. To be honest, I've stopped trying to guess what he's going to do. But I mean, if you look at that squad, the signs are that the lad from Germany, Xhaka, it looks like it's quite close. I mean, Raphael Honigstein, who's obviously a German journo, who's got his links, but was pretty much saying that the deal is done. They're just waiting to announce a replacement sort of thing. So, and then, with Welbeck out for 9 months, as Wenger said, 9 months is basically a season. So with Theo Walcott's future a little bit undecided as well, you kind of think, well, surely we can't go into a season with just Olivier Giroud, So,
well, he said today, didn't he? He said today, or said in the paper today, that he's definitely got to bring in a striker.
Yeah. I mean, he was asked if Giroud's his first choice, and he obviously said yes, because he hasn't got anyone else at the moment. Yeah. So he did say he's looking to bring someone in who will then compete with Giroud. So I mean, that's kind of what we would expect. So I think we will see a striker. I think we will see a midfielder. I mean, El Nenny's come in, so technically, has he replaced one of the kind of outgoing years? He's practically replaced Flamini in the squad, perhaps. I think Mark's right about Iwobi. I think he's kind of, you want to keep players like that hungry. You want slightly more established players playing, but you want players like Iwobi in the squad that when they do get their chance, when there is an injury, they come and they play and they perform, because that's how you win league titles. You need your squad players to perform. So, and then I think the one position that I'm worried about is centre-back, and that's somewhere where I would really love a centre-back to come in to complement Koscielny. And that's the one I'm just not sure what will happen, because I in an ideal world, I think Callum Chambers go out on loan, play a season. He needs games, but bring in someone who's going to play alongside Koscielny, and then that way Gabriel can compete, and then Mertesacker sort of around as a bit of a backup option. But I'm just not sure what will happen there. Obviously, Debussy will go as well. Will Carl Jenkinson come back? Will we get someone in? I'm not sure. So I'm sort of worried in defence more than anywhere else at the moment.
We'll come back to the defensive question. I'm going to come over to Clive. Clive, now, do you think that there's going to be a high turnover this summer? Yep. You really think that, don't you?
I really do.
And why do you think that?
Well, the reason why is last summer we didn't do anything, right? So because we didn't do anything with our outfield, we basically had a similar squad for 2 years, right? So we now need to renew, and contract situations are going to drive renewal, right? So straight away, Ospina, do you think he's going to stay? No, that means we need a second keeper, right? Debussy, do you think he's going to stay? No. One of the Brits is going to go. I think Danny Welbeck's injury might have saved Theo Walcott. I think he will stay, but potentially Gibbs may go. He may not go. I'm not too worried. Arteta, Rosicky, I'm not sure on Flamini. You know, that whole situation's gone a bit quiet. You know, knowing him, he'll get another contract. But Arteta, Rosicky, Flamini, right? So that's potentially 6. Welbeck out for the season. That's 7. Jenkinson's not back till Christmas. That's 8. That's 8 players without somebody big potentially going or not wanting to stay. Right, and then you look at Iwobi, you say, well, he's now first team squad member, so he's gonna stay. You know, Terrell at Birmingham, he's basically at number 10. We've got quite a few of those, right? So what we're going to do with him, Chris Willock is interesting. I think potentially he could get promoted to the first team squad. So I think when he says 3, Wenger, I think he's thinking 3 I'm talking the first 14. But I think there could be 4, 5, maybe 6 additions to the squad. You know, looking at young fullbacks, looking at young centre backs, looking at a young left back, looking at the youth players. I know that one of my favourites is Maitland-Niles, but he sort of went off the ball a little bit. So what's going to happen with him? The pre-season's going to be.
His mum's a big influence on that, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. So, or lads suffering some banter in the dressing room with that one, right? So, but no one's saying it to his mum's face, that's for sure. So you know, he's a very talented player, and he sort of went off the boil, but he could come back very, very easily. And one thing about him, physically, he's ready. So it's all about having the opportunity. So watch out for him. I'm not so convinced about Crowley yet. I think he's got a little step to go. But anyone who's been watching Chris Willock is just, it's just unbelievable what he's doing. I mean, he is just silk. Right?
So you're talking about Willock, possibly Maitland-Niles, you're talking about Terrell stepping up, you're talking...
Yeah, I think
maybe
I think I've watched him, he looks a bit slow-legged. Mm-hmm. I think the loan system sometimes allows you to find your level, and I'm not sure if he's going to, he was the star. So Iwobi and Akpom grew up together, and it's always about Tuba, right? He was the man. And at no point was Iwobi ahead of him until, not even pre-season, until this season. And so it's just completely turned, right? So football can change really, really quickly, right? So Tuba's got a massive summer ahead of him, right? Pre-season, etc., to see what he does. But I don't think he's quick-legged enough to really make an impact. So yeah, I do see massive turnover, and that's just due to the fact that we did nothing last summer. So now we have to do something this year, and it's going to be really exciting, right? We're going to see a lot of young players coming through, and we are going to buy the 3 or 4. And the Xhaka one, I don't know if we're going to touch on him later, but I'm really excited by that. And if you watch him on video and you watch what he's done in games in the Bundesliga, his ability to pass from distance and long-range passing is stunning.
Yeah.
And in an era where everyone's pressing, that could be our antidote, right? Because you can't press him. He fires cannons through the lines, right? So it's going to be really interesting to see if he does come and how he develops our game plan.
He's very good under pressure with the ball. He's very, very good. He backs his abilities. Like I say, he passes, he breaks the lines with his passing and whatnot. And
they're like shots. They're like shots. Mate.
Yeah, and it depends. And what you need is you need players around you that can actually take that ball, trap that ball instantly.
We got quite a few of those, to be fair, haven't we? Let's be honest.
And Giroud. Because you know what? I'm going off on a tangent, right? I'm going off completely on a tangent. Sorry about this, guys, but I was watching the Bayern Munich Atletico Madrid game, and what Bayern Munich were doing, they were coming out with the ball and they were firing diagonals or vertical balls straight into Lewandowski, and he was trapping it, killing the ball dead. These were like 100-mile-an-hour balls, and these were how they were setting up attacks. And I don't know if Giroud can do that because we're so dependent on tippy tappy and the crab tree and whatever you want to call it, the horseshoe, whatever. But we're not incisive passing through the lines. I don't know if that's because they don't believe that Giroud has the ability to trap a quick, as you say, a cannon-fired ball coming at him vertically.
I think regardless, I can't see Olivier Giroud being our first choice striker ever again. I think this year he was, we tried to replace him with Walcott, we tried with Welbeck, but the guy just kept coming back due to injuries to the other two. I think I would even say if we got a £15 million bid for him, I think Arsenal perhaps would consider it or should consider it. But obviously you still need options, so maybe not. But I think I don't think we'll see him sort of. I think this was his kind of chance.
I think he's still got a role to play.
He's got a role. Yeah,
I don't think he's our only recognised striker, so I don't see him going unless we get a fantastic stupid bid for him.
I think Joel Campbell's another that will probably leave as well. He looked like he was saying his goodbyes actually yesterday on the field at the end, so that's another one.
I missed him. You're right, Axe. I think he'll go as well.
Yeah. You got Jeff as well, maybe coming through.
Yeah. So there's a few, and I would like to see Pegues given a chance in pre-season as well. I think he's, of the youngsters that we got coming through in defence, I think he's the best bet. He's a natural, but that's what.
No, that Bielik is looking at.
No, not as a defender. Absolutely rubbish. He's awful. I've seen him in Europe. I've seen him in the European youth games. Then they make mince meat out of him. I don't know what games you're watching, Clive, but I tell you what, when I've seen him in European games,
it's not important. We'll see. It's plenty of time. We will see.
Maybe as his midfielder, but not as a centre back.
I can't win the argument today. I'll tell you now, he looks a player, that boy. So we'll see. But like I say, it's youth football, right? You get different ages, get different physicalities. So let's see when he gets man on man, right? See what happens.
Right, so, so we've got a question here from @Fards20, and he asked, would you guys take Virgil van Dijk? Is it me, or is he better? For me, he's better than Stones and Varane. Now, just before you guys answer that, Van Dijk was, I think he's about to sign if he hasn't signed one, he's going to sign another deal.
Just signed a 6-year contract.
I think that's an extension to the 4 years he's already got or whatever. So I think I don't know if is it a 6-year deal? A new 6 years, or it's going to be another?
It's the end date. I think it's 6 years from now, right?
Yeah. So. And I think he said the other day, and I remember watching his post-match interview, and he said that he's happy to stay for another few years. So I don't know if, obviously, if he's signed a new deal, that means there's going to be a big money to prize him away. But are we looking at somebody of that type and that quality to come in? Because, we say that Mertesacker's pretty much past his sell-by date, I suppose is what most people are saying. Gabriel is only his 5th year in senior football, and he's still not convinced. Koscielny's had he's been struggling with who he's playing with in defence, and his own form has struggled as well. So we're looking at a defender. Would you say somebody of that sort of Varane, Van Dijk, Mustafi type is the sort of player we're looking at? Coming to you, Mark, because you've been a bit quiet recently.
Well, I think we definitely need one. I think Pear's done. Gabriel is slightly travelling backwards for some strange reason. I always thought he was going to be a really good one-on-one defender, and he's been caught out a few times. I mean, his defending yesterday at that early stage was just embarrassing, to be fair. And it's not the first time, so I don't know what's happening with Gabriel, why he's struggling. Cos is going to be 30 and he's going to the Euros, so again that's hardly going to help him be ready for the start of next season. And Chambers, who knows? I know Clive's a big fan of moving Chambers forward, but maybe we'll be covered in that area if the transfer rumours are anything to be believed, with Conte and Coquelin in the team, not at the same time necessarily. So I don't know, but I agree with what Axe says. I think a centre back is vital, because our defence doesn't have really anyone organising it. You could say that Mertesacker, that was the job that Mertesacker did, but obviously you can't then have him in there just for his organisational skills when as a defender his legs have gone. So I think Axe is right. I think we need somebody in there that can really sort of try and take the lead, because I think that's what we're missing. I don't think Cos does that. It's not his game, and he's never going to learn it to do it now. So I would like to see someone. I think it was a bit harsh on Stones, because Stones is only 21 and Van Dijk's 24, so and those 3 extra years makes a big difference. Varane, I like Varane. I think Varane's a good player. He's slightly again gone backwards maybe at Real Madrid, but he's 23, so he's still a young lad. So I'd like to see us buy some. I think we definitely need a top quality centre half. That's probably just as important as a centre forward, because if we get a good centre forward, that's great. But then we're looking to try and win every game 6-5, because we just need to sort out the defence. If we can sort out the defence and get some defenders in to stop turning their backs on shots, then Czech will be able to have a few more clean sheets.
Akhil, you brought up the centre half subject originally. Do you see Wenger going out and putting down good money on a centre half? I mean, the most he's paid is 16 to 18 for an untested Callum Chambers, but you think he's going to go out and put down good money on a really good centre back that we need? And what kind of centre back would you like to see come in?
I'm not actually sure about that. I think if there was a striker out there, I think money might not be as big of an issue. I think maybe because Wenger loves strikers, but also obviously we were lacking goals at the back. I'm just not sure. I'm just not sure that could I see Arsenal sort of getting in a £30 million centre back. I don't know. I'll be very surprised if it did happen. I mean, it's always been around that 10 million mark. Gabriel, Koscielny, Debussy, Monreal, they were all about that sort of price. So I don't know. I hope either he does go big and buys that established one, or he finds another Koscielny, which it's getting harder and harder in the modern day. And I think with sort of the patience isn't quite there anymore, and it's certainly more of a results game. And if this is to be Wenger's last year, then you would hope he would get someone ready. So I don't know. I struggle with that question. Who would I want? It's very difficult. I'm really rubbish at stuff like that. But what I do think is important is I think centre back come in pairs in terms of you need the two, and that's why it hasn't helped with Koscielny playing with Mertesacker, playing with Gabriel, then Mertesacker again, then Gabriel. I think you need to forge that partnership. So someone who can come and complement Koscielny, I think that's just as important as the individual quality. But they should be able to play alongside Koscielny, because I think that if you think you get a centre back that can play with Koscielny, you've suddenly got Petr Cech behind them. You've potentially got Xhaka in front of them with Coquelin and El Neni in certain games, and then you've got Ozil. And then if we do buy a striker, that suddenly that spine that we've been talking about for 6 or 7 good years, suddenly you've got that in place. And then you can let your Sanchez's, your Iwobis, your whoever else there is. If Theo Walcott comes back in, Welbeck, you can let them then play. So yeah, I can't give you names, but someone that can play with Koscielny, because I think that's for the next 2 or 3 years, that's the future.
See, you let me in, son. I've been dying to get in on this one. So, basically, I'm with. I don't think he's going to buy a centre back, right? So, I think he's going to buy 3 players. I think he'll buy a centre mid. I think he'll buy a winger. I think he'll buy a striker, right? So, that's what I would do. And what I would do to centre backs is I would do a simple thing, right? I would swap them over. Right, if you look at some of Gabriel's best games, they've been with Mertesacker and or Chambers when he's forced to play to lead or been on the left-hand side. When he played for Villarreal, although he can play both sides, predominantly he played left centre-back. Now, Koscielny played left centre-back with Mertesacker there. And when Koscielny played with Sakho for France, he plays right centre-back. He's got the ability to do both sides. I always think our right channels are issued because Bellerin is so distant and he's so attacking. Why not have our best defender behind our best attacking fullback and have Monreal a lot closer to Gabriel on the left side? A simple switch like that could transform the relationships and the partnerships in defence. I'd like to see him try that, because I don't see anything wrong with the competencies of the 2 centre-backs. What I do see, I don't think I've got a relationship. I watch them when I go to the games live, and I don't see the communication. I don't see the real friendship you see with Mertesacker and Koscielny. They need to develop that. But a simple swap would, I think, transform that partnership. and we should definitely look to do something like that. I think Chambers. My issue with Chambers is I don't think he's grown. I know it sounds silly, right? I think he's on the edge physically, being the last man. I think he tackles like a midfielder. I think he gets squared up in defence a lot. It's very important, your body position. That's why Gabriel looked so awkward yesterday on the right-hand side. On the left, he's a lot more in control of his body. And so I'm not. I really want Callum Chambers to succeed. I'm not writing him off. I just think he needs some time to physically develop, and he's still very, very young and can still go again. So that's the way I see it going. I do think we need to make this 4 work. I don't see, given to what Akhil said about leadership, I see Mertesacker staying. I don't see him going. I see him staying, given the experience we lost from the dressing room for 1 more year. And so, yeah, that's how I see it going in defence. And defence is our issue, by the way. Our goalkeeper was about to pick up the Golden Glove, right? So we're looking at it, but our numbers conceded are not huge.
The problem is, Clive, is our home form has been terrible.
Yeah, but that's down to our execution at the other end.
Yeah.
And yes, we can be criticised for conceding goals in clumps. When we concede 3. That's been an issue. That's down to mentality. But let's think about it, right? It's all about our execution at the other end. Goals change matches, right?
I tell you what, I had a conversation with Mark Andrews and Andy Kelly and them guys. I did a tweet about. I think I said Czech has conceded 10 goals outside his area this season. And Andy Kelly came up with a stat that said it actually showed that there wasn't that much difference between Czech and Ospina. There wasn't as big as difference as is perceived by people. People think that Czech is miles ahead of Ospina stats-wise. I mean, for me, it was all about the eye test. I think that Czech offers more reassurance, stability and control and command of his area than someone like Ospina, but numbers-wise, it doesn't seem to be that great a difference. And if he's conceding goals from outside the area, then why aren't we checking that? And it seems to be several of the goals seem to come from a certain channel or a certain route. And that, to me, that's about people aren't doing their jobs, as well as I think Czech's got an issue. I think he's got an issue on his near post, and we've had goalkeepers in the past that have had issues on the near post. So I don't know what that's about, and that's just my hunch from what I see. But Axe, do you think there's a problem there in terms of? I mean, people say that the problem is more so up the other end of the field, but I also do think there is a problem that needs to be addressed in defence, and I'm not sure it's just a matter of swapping the 2 defenders around and letting them work on it. I think there's a bigger problem that we're not dealing with.
Well, you know what? This is why I love having Clive on, because he'll give you. I mean, Arsene Wenger would love Clive, wouldn't he? That internal solution. Clive's full of internal solutions, which I'll tell you what, it's something I never really even thought about. I don't think I'm smart enough to think about something like that, if I'm completely honest. I think with Czech, it was after that Palace goal, the Balassi goal, where I did think, you know what, he's conceded a lot on the right. So you're talking about near post, but on the to the right.
Yes.
And it was. I can't remember what. There's been a few games where I thought we should have done better, but it's something.
Well, you think of the first game of the season as well, Payet's goal for West Ham. That was a game.
Well, didn't Palace score in the home leg, away as well in the second
game? Yeah.
It was something, and you kind of whisper it because you think we've wanted a goalkeeper for so long. Czechs come in. If we then start moaning about Czech, it makes us look really silly. So you kind of whisper it. I don't know. It's whether someone's doing anything wrong ahead of him, whether it's I don't know. I mean, where I do agree with Clive is we haven't scored goals this season. It's been has it been the least under Wenger in 20 years? Well, I mean, there's your kind of problem. I think it was something you tweeted today about Ozil getting only 3 assists in the last 14, 15 games, yet
17 games.
creating the most chances.
Yeah.
There lies the problem. We're not putting our chances away. So defensively, I don't know. I don't know if swapping them would work. I don't know if Bellerin. I mean, with sort of Bellerin, I think that's why Walcott's been out of the team. Sort of, he played up front, got injured. As he came back, he never really played on the right because of Bellerin behind him. I mean, that's something I'm probably that's about at my level. I can kind of see that why Walcott doesn't play in front of Bellerin. But in terms of at the back, I'm not sure. But I think even swapping them around, and if that does work, suddenly you are one injury away from, is Mertesacker going to be able to play even if it's 20 games? Is Chambers ready to play 20 games? I think, for me, Chambers needs a loan, and I know I've sort of touched upon that, and I know I'm going off the point, but for me, even Oxlade-Chamberlain, I think they need games. They need a run of games at a team that, a Southampton or a West Ham, whether they'll take them, I don't know, but for me, they need games. There's no point keeping Chambers as third or fourth choice not playing, because I don't think he's developing his game much.
And also, on top of that as well, Ax, if I can come in, bringing in someone like Mertesacker, as a third choice, I just wonder. For me, he's still a good defender. He's never had pace, so it's never been an issue. He's not losing anything he's not had. But I just don't think he fits in the system. We can't play a high line. It makes him look worse. Look worse. Obviously we've talked about Bellerin running off in outfield and leaving him exposed and no one in front of Mertesacker to shield him. And hopefully we're hoping that if Xhaka comes in, that kind of nullifies that threat. But still, we can't play a high line with Mertesacker. We cannot. It kills him. It kills us. Does him no favours.
It seemed after the Chelsea game when he got sent off, there was definitely something. Suddenly it was when we played against strikers with any sort of pace, we tended not to play Mertesacker, and the famous obviously example we'll all remember is West Ham away, where Arsenal thought Sakho would start, so they played Gabriel, but Carroll started, which Arsenal then came out and kind of said, well, we thought Sakho was starting, and that hinted that if we knew Carroll was starting, Mertesacker would have played. So I think he started to choose who's more suited for the opposition. But there again, what Clive said about your centre-backs being friends, getting on, all that sort of stuff, I think you need that as well. We saw it with sort of Toure and Giles all those years ago when the two guys didn't talk to each other, and you could sometimes tell on the pitch. It was a joke at times, and I think that, playing Mertesacker when it's suited might then disrupt it. It might do more harm than good. So I'm not sure. I think that's a really tricky one, actually.
Bring in Varane. Kills the problem, doesn't it? He plays with
Varane. I've been looking at
France.
So there you go.
I've been looking at
Sakho won't play now, so them two will play together. Sorry, Clive.
No, I was just gonna say I've been looking at Varane because I like him as well, right? And he's sitting there waiting for Jose Mourinho to buy him wherever he lands, right? So it'd be great if we could steal him, because he's not playing, but Madrid are not going to want to let him go. But he's going to need another quiet soul, right? He's not a leader. He's got all the attributes. He runs like the wind, and he's 6'3", 6'4", and he looks perfect. And he plays with Koscielny, and he's the right-sided centre back. Done. There you go. Slot him in. But does he have the attributes as an individual? He's not really leadership material. He's a very quiet defender. The big miss for me, and one of my first pods, I said it. The big miss for me was letting Chris Smalling go to Manchester United, right, for £10 million. I think he was perfect right-sided defender, and he's developed into their player of the year, and he's, into my opinion, a top-class defender, right? So a perfect foil for someone like Koscielny, and really growing into a leader as well, right? He's leading Manchester United's defence. That's a huge miss, and we just got outbid, right? So, but yeah, I do think he's going to work with the solutions that he's got. Although I do have a feeling that we got to manage Chambers' career a lot better than what we are. He's our third record signing, and we're just having him sitting there in his suit most weeks. That doesn't feel right to me. He needs to play for sure.
I'll tell you, my pick would be Kalidou Koulibaly at Napoli. His ascension this season has been absolutely ridiculous. His improvement has been like night and day. Big, strong, imposing, quick, good reader, heads the ball, decent on the ball, can play through the lines. You watch him and you look at a beast, and I would love to see him coming in, but Wenger won't pay that kind of money. Let's move on to another question. At Zeus_Cannon says, what are the turning points in the season in terms of success and failure? So I'm going to start with you, Mark. Give me one successful, just give me anything that you think is successful.
Just give me anything.
something successful.
Yeah.
I thought, I was impressed.
Coming second.
I was impressed with how they played at Olympiacos away. I mean, all right, yeah, it's not. I mean, it's somewhere where we never do that well. away in Greece. Olympiacos not the greatest of teams, despite the result they got at home against us. But when the guys, they knew they had to perform, and Joel Campbell was exceptional that night. There was 4 or 5 other players that put in a really, really top performance when they knew that qualification for the last 16 was at stake. So I mean I was impressed by how they played that night. I thought that was a successful point. In terms of downside, I think it was the week of United, Barcelona, Swansea. It's not so much Barcelona, because I think that was pretty much on the cards and that. But the United, I think you losing to that United team was a real blow for the side, and I think they struggled with that.
Clive, you won success.
Well, one success. Well, I got 2. Right, give me 2. Right, so I've gone. It's 2 20 minutes actually. The first 20 minutes at Man United at home was just perfection. Right, and it was football perfection. I've watched it about 400 times. Right, it's perfect, and I'm not sure I'll see us play better. And funny enough, there's 20 minutes in the second half when we went down to 10 men against Spurs away. I thought that was the moment when we could have folded. The rain coming down, we had a great 10-minute spell. The 5 minutes before Sanchez scored that second goal. I just thought that was a really spirited few minutes. I mean, if Ramsey had gone on to score that goal in the last minute, I think that would have gone down in folklore, right? That performance, I really enjoyed that. And the downside for me is, I'm going to say, Norwich away. Norwich away was in hindsight, it was pivotal, right? Because we lost Santi Cazorla, lost one of those leaders we talk about, right? He's a technical leader on the pitch. He leads that team by just the fact you can give him the ball and he virtually puts it in his pocket and walks off with it, right? So you just can't get it off him. And players need that confidence that when someone can look after the ball like that. And then to lose Sanchez, and although our results didn't immediately show it, we carried players. Ozil stepped up. But when we got to Southampton post-Christmas, we had nothing left. If we had Sanchez in that mix, I think we could have kicked on into the new year in much better physical shape. That, to me, losing those 2 pivotal players, I think Koscielny got injured in that game as well, if I remember rightly. That was huge in hindsight. And I know we only saw glimpses of Cazorla against Villa, but I think we could all see, crikey, as soon as he's in the team, everything seems to work a little bit differently, right? So it's a shame, right? And we keep talking about injuries, but that's my highlights and lowlights.
Axe, you?
I was actually going to do 2 as well, but Clive's taken one. That 2-2 at Spurs. I was sitting in the stands when Coquelin ran off, and I had the ever positive Tim Payton next to me, and we both kind of looked at each other and thought, "Wow, we'll do well to hold out here." And then 2-1 down, we thought, I was already thinking about the walk back to the station, thinking it's going to be horrid with them. It's going to be horrid, but we showed something, as Clive mentioned. But I mean, the main one, I would say, I mean, obviously the 20 minutes against Man United was great. I think Mark was right about Olympiacos. I thought that was a game where we had to show something, and we did. But Man City at home on the 21st of December. I remember doing a podcast with Neil Ashton a couple of months before, and he said that he was wrong, because he said if Arsenal win that game and go top of the league, then they're already kind of, they're front runners. But one of the reasons for that game was it was a Monday night when there's not much football on in the world. Everyone's sort of watching that game. It was Arsenal against Man City. It was a big game. No football in the top European countries. And I thought we didn't have Sanchez. Flamini started that day, so we did have to carry a few players, but we played well in the first half and we won the game. So that was a real sort of positive, because at the time we didn't believe Leicester or Spurs would finish where they are. So Man City were the closest rivals. So that's probably my high. My low, it has to be Old Trafford. I mean, Giles, you remember we ran into each other walking out, and it was probably about as negative as you've probably ever seen me. I was distraught that day. That was the day I thought that title's gone. I think
fold it.
Well, exactly. For me to for me to kind of really lose it like that, it doesn't happen often. It doesn't happen. I'm one of those who tries to stick up for the team often, tries to find positives, but there were no positives that day. We lost to a Man United side with, they had 4 or 5 of their experienced players in, but there was a lot of inexperience in there. You know, it was everything we thought going into that game, thinking, all right, look, their crowd will get on their back. If we can get to them early, if we can get a goal, if we can press them, if we can make them make mistakes, their crowd will start jumping all over them. We didn't do any of that. And that really hurt. And then obviously the Swansea game after. But for me, that Old Trafford game was just the killer. I think it killed us mentally as well.
Yeah, I would agree.
And we did bottle it, by the way.
Yeah, that for me, was oof. That was a real sickener.
And to top it off, we got lost walking back to the station. It took us for half an hour longer.
Yeah, that game was a sickener for me. Also, Clive, you mentioned Norwich, but I think that whole period, because we lost Coquelin around that period.
West Brom.
Was that West Brom?
Yeah.
So around that period as well was pretty low. Olympiacos, great shout. Man United at home, great shout. Leicester City was a false dawn at home, but that game was, it was I think that still instilled a lot of false hope in people. But
even Leicester away, if that Leicester away game had come later on in the season when we knew what Leicester were doing, perhaps that would have been one of them, because we played some really good football that day too. Yeah.
I remember Clive saying he was back in the room when we won 2-1 at home to Leicester.
I was back, man. I was back. Swansea at home. Suddenly, I'm out of the room again.
Yeah. Quite indeed. All right, let's look to wrap it up. I think we've covered most subjects, or all that's relevant. So final closing thoughts. Going to start with you, Mark. It's happening again.
Yeah. Was that it? What you want my thoughts on it happening again? Yeah, it's happened again. And look,
will it happen again? Will it happen again?
Look, I mean, I don't know, but you know what I said yesterday. I mean, as much as it's important to finish above them, because of bragging rights and everything like that. We just have to be a little bit careful that it doesn't just become more important than actually challenging for things. Is it all right to finish 4th if they're 5th? Is it all right to finish 5th if they're 6th? We've got to remember we're supposed to be a huge club, and we take the piss out of them all the time for being in our shadows and everything like that. But we're in danger of becoming so obsessed about finishing above them that, let's not take our eye off the ball of what happened this season, and that there are certain things that have to be corrected if we're going to mount a decent challenge next year. Because I do not believe that next year that City, United, Liverpool and Chelsea will do the same that they've done this year. Maybe one of them will, maybe one of them will be worse, but I can't see all of them doing it. I just think we've got to be a bit careful. It was spectacular the way that they managed to fuck it up themselves, and it was more that they just bottled it than anything we particularly did. But let's not get too carried away, but let's enjoy it and take the piss out of the fucking idiots while we can anyway.
Yeah, indeed. Clive?
Yeah, I have to say, right, I don't know what you guys feel, but I started to really enjoy it again. I enjoy my football anyway, and I try to keep my focus on the game. But I've noticed a little bit more unity around the team and around the club, and on my timelines anyway, on Twitter and stuff like that. And it's actually been quite nice, right? And although we didn't expect what happened to Spurs, I really wanted to enjoy it, and I've enjoyed the fact that we've almost surprised ourselves, right? Come second, but we didn't expect it. And now all the pundits are reversing out the garage, right? They've been slaughtering us all year. We've been slaughtering the team all year. They've ended up in the position by default slightly that allows us to have a different perspective, right? It still doesn't take away what we need to do, and we're all practical. We know there's much to improve, but I do think it's been a fantastic learning year, right? And we're not the only ones. I mean, Leicester won the league. They lost 3 games. We've got to give them credit, right? Look, if you lose 3 games, you deserve to win the league. They won it. We didn't give it to them. We didn't have the ability to take it, right? So we got to, maybe we got to start to enjoy going to the games a bit more. I think it's important, and football's meant to bring joy to our lives, right? And we should do that and try to bring some positivity and not just all negativity all the time. So I'm enjoying it again, and I hope other people are, because it's worth it.
Closing thoughts from you as well, Akhil.
I think overall this season has been a bit of a failure. It's probably the first year where I've ever been to watch Arsenal where I haven't quite enjoyed the football. I found it a little bit dull. But at the same time, today I've picked a few people, sort of, I've kind of pulled them up rather, and a few journalists as well, about the sort of Arsenal fans celebrating second, celebrating, no, we're not. You know, we know this season was a bit of a failure, but the day you can't enjoy finishing above your local rivals is the day you might as well give up. If you can't enjoy it, if you can't, especially the way it happened, then what's the point? You know, then there are clubs out there that will never win league titles. Are we saying that, you know, don't ever enjoy it, be miserable? No, football's there to be enjoyed, as Clive says, and hopefully this summer we'll do the business, you know, what we just kind of spent the last hour talking about, and we'll come back again next year in an ideal world. Arsene Wenger will win the league, perhaps we even win a double, and then walk into the sunshine, and you know, everyone will be happy, sort of thing. So that's the hope. I probably won't put my mortgage on it, but I'll certainly put 20 quid on it.
Indeed. I suppose I agree with all your thoughts. I just want to spare a thought for Harry Redknapp. He must be gutted in that the team that finished third really didn't deserve the fate that befell them, apparently. And we were really lucky, and if we're not careful, you know, that negative spiral will come to pass. So, you know, spare a thought for Harry and them guys. I want to thank you all for coming on, Clive, Mark, Akhil.
Pleasure.
You'll hear us throughout the summer on and off. We'll probably do a couple of pods. We've got a couple of pods lined up. We've got a Fingering Out debate coming. We've got a end of season special with a couple of journos. We've got a book review. We'll probably be on throughout, you know, once or twice over the Euros. You will hear Clive's voice over the summer. Don't worry, you know, you can't shut him up. Trust me.
I've got loads of stuff, man. We do some player analysis. I'm ready for that. Individual one-on-one. Bring it. I'm ready.
I think the rest of us want a summer off, to be honest. But just for Clive, I'll be on too. So. Yeah. And plus, Clive owes me a Jaeger bomb as well, so I want to make sure I keep him in my good books.
All right, that's been a good Ramble podcast. My name's Giles. Thanks for listening, and join us again soon. Take care.